Hello. It's a bit of an interesting gardening video today because I'm out and about. If you've been watching my gardening videos, you'll know that I intend building a wildlife zone in the far corner of the garden at Rose Cottage. And part of that wildlife zone will be building a hedgehog house. So I've come to consult the experts at this registered charity called Lower Mosswood Wildlife Hospital, and I'll put their details in the box below this video. And I'm going to meet a guy called Ray Jackson MBE who founded this charity, and he's going to tell me everything I need to know about how to construct a hedgehog house and how to attract hedgehogs into the garden. Let's go inside and meet Ray. So Ray, we're in the hedgehog room at the wildlife charity, and I'm talking quietly because I don't want to wake them up, because a lot of these cages have got hedgehogs in them. How many hedgehogs have you got here at the moment?
We've probably got about 30 in at the moment. 30
hedgehogs?
Yeah.
What reasons bring hedgehogs to you?
Well, some come in the winter time mainly because they're underweight and they're being found out in the daytime. That's another thing. So hedgehog in the daytime is usually something up with it. And the various things, sometimes you've got ringworms, sometimes you've got lungworms.
When you say weight, what's the normal weight for a healthy hedgehog?
A good hedgehog at 450 grams can get through a winter hibernation. A lot of people saying that if you find a hedgehog under 650 grams, it needs bringing in, or if it's under 600 grams, it needs bringing in. But in my personal opinion, through sort of studying with the experts and that I know that, you know, they're probably filling up the hospitals with hedgehogs that they don't really need to have in captivity.
Right, okay. How many years have you been looking after hedgehogs?
34 years.
34 years, so you would know about them, I think, by now. Brilliant. Now, I did get some footage of a hedgehog being weighed earlier. Yeah. And how much contact do they have with humans?
Very little.
And what's the reason for not having any contact with them?
Well, they've got to go back into the wild, so it's no point. Every animal possesses what the most important thing is, what we call the fear imprint, and that fear imprint, it tells them when there's something wrong and they have to curl up into a ball, like when the badger comes along.
Right.
But many years ago I did a study and found out that the way that we were caring for hedgehogs was totally wrong, because when I radio tracked them, they all got eaten.
Oh gosh. And what, because they'd lost that fear imprint?
They'd lost that fear imprint because people talked to them at that time. This was back in 1993. And so we changed the way that we look after the hedgehogs. And if you look in this hedgehog room now, you won't see a hedgehog because they're all asleep.
Right, as I noticed that, they're all hidden away.
Supposed to do. Yeah. So if you want to come and see a hedgehog here, you come and see a load of paper.
Yeah. And I noticed there that you've got almost the bedding seems to be made out of paper, and it seems to be torn up. What's the reason for that?
Well, if you use stuff like shredded paper, or
that you've put through a shed, like in long strings, yeah,
that can wrap around the legs and become a tourniquet and cut the wood off.
Right.
And it has happened. We tear inch strips, and those strips, when you tear them, they have soft edges.
Right.
We cut them, then they have sharp edges, so we just tear them so they have soft edges, and then we just scribble them up and then just put them in.
Brilliant. And I can see they're all toasty warm inside there. What sort of temperature did they go down to, these hedgehogs?
Well, in this room we don't have a heater on, so if they choose to hibernate and it's cold, they can, but they know when they wake up, when the room warms up, there'll be food available.
Yes. What sort of food do you give them?
Well, you give them a mixture of wet cat food, dry cat food, and insectivorous food.
What do you mean by insectivorous food?
It's basically an insect eater's diet.
Right.
And hedgehogs eat a lot of insects.
Can you buy that off the shelf somewhere?
Yeah. People use it for feeding birds, finches, and things like that as well.
Right. What's the benefit of dry food over wet cat food?
Well, when we've had hedgehogs in captivity, feeding them on wet cat food constantly, nothing else. This was another thing we found in the study. They get tartar on their teeth and gingivitis because they're just eating soft food.
Yeah.
So by putting the biscuits in, You're giving them something that cleans the teeth.
Well, a bit like you do with a dog at home.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not just hedgehogs that you have here. I don't want to give people the impression that it's all about the hedgehogs. You have other animals. What other animals have you got in at the moment?
We have a lot of bats come in, and we overwinter bats. We've got a special bat unit that was quite unique to Lower Mosswood, and we have badgers, foxes, and very soon it's springtime, so we'll get fox cubs and badger cubs, and then lots of baby birds that people bring in. Millions of pigeons.
Yeah. What's the busiest time of the year for you here?
It's in the next, from the end of March right through till the end of October.
I wanted your advice because I'm building a wildlife zone in the corner of my garden.
Yeah.
And I want to put a hedgehog house in there because I want to encourage hedgehogs into the garden, because I know there's so many benefits to having hedgehogs around the garden. You know, what features would you design into a hedgehog house?
Well, you've got to make him an area where he can move in comfortably, not too big.
In terms of scale and dimensions, what are we talking in terms of feet?
Not much more than a foot square, really.
Right, yeah, okay.
But you have to make sure that it has a tunnel entrance and the predators can't get in.
So you mentioned a tunnel. How long might the tunnel be?
Maybe 9 inches to a foot long.
Right, okay, so about so long. And that tunnel's got to be big enough for the hedgehog, but not big enough for a predator. What might be the predator be?
The foxes or badgers. One of the things that you have to remember, that the hole's got to be big enough for a hedgehog that's eating all it can possibly eat, because it's going to go sleep for the winter.
Oh, right, so you're getting a chubby hedgehog in the hibernation period.
Yep.
It might be a bit lighter when it comes out, but the hole's got to be big enough for a chubby one going in.
Yeah,
right, I see.
Squeeze, I can't get in, I can't get in.
Yeah, fair enough. Good point. Yeah.
When also the things you have to remember in there is that they get condensation, so you've got to have good ventilation.
Right.
A few people will put plastic sheeting under the roof, thinking making it waterproof.
Yes.
But actually keeping the condensation in, and that'll be dripping on top of the nest.
I guess that condensation is from its body heat. It's just
same as anybody. If you get in a car, it steams up.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like that, really.
Okay. What would you suggest about cleaning it out?
Well, you don't need to touch it at all until probably the next season. One thing that you need to do is provide a feeding station that they can use if they wake up in the winter.
Well, would they wake up in the winter?
Sometimes when the winter gets mild, they get confused and they'll wake up and they'll start walking around thinking, oh, spring's here, but it isn't.
Right. So a nearby feeding station, what would that look like?
Well, normally what we used to do, we have 4 bricks with a 2-foot slab on the top.
Right.
And then the food, dry cat food, not wet cat food, just dry cat food in the middle.
Right.
Change it weekly if it's not eaten.
I suppose I'm going to need to, because my neighbour's got a cat, keep it low enough for the cat not to get under, but high enough for the hedgehog to be able to get under.
Hedgehog can squash itself in.
Right.
But another thing is make sure there's a smooth roof, so because the hedgehog spines are like barbs.
Oh, right, so once it goes in, it might
struggle getting out of it.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, I want to build a wildlife pond in my wildlife zone. Are there any risks or hazards or precautions I can take to help with the hedgehog?
Hedgehogs will find themselves in there. They always do.
Well, can they swim?
Yes, they can swim very well, but they can't swim forever.
Ah, right.
So they've got to find a way of getting out of the pond as soon as possible, because they get hypothermia, visited barcode every year.
Yeah.
You know, so they want to get in and out as soon as possible. So one way you can do that, you can either have it a gradual pond with a swamp at the end where it can just walk out through the boggy bit, or if you've got a more of a conventional plastic pond, you struggle on the sides getting that out, and you've usually got a lip of concrete around the outside.
Yeah.
You can either put a ramp in that they can use, or hang Hessian sacks, put a couple of bricks on it, and let the sack in there. So
it can get some purchase with its little claws and climb out.
Yeah.
Right, brilliant. Should I put bedding in the nest, in the box that I'm making, or should I put it nearby? You might
put a little bit in, but have some dry bedding close by which he can put in itself, because it wants to build its nest. So you just let it build the nest.
Right, okay.
It knows how to do it better than us.
Okay. I've heard that there are certain benefits to gardeners of having a hedgehog. What would you say are the main benefits to a gardener?
Well, the obvious one is the alternative to slug pellets.
If I put slug pellets down and a hedgehog eats it, clearly it's going to poison the hedgehog. So I'm going to avoid one or the other.
It won't be the pellet that it's eating, it'll be the poison slugs.
Right.
Secondary poisoning.
Oh, I see.
And so the more slugs you've got dying,
yeah,
the more poison's going into the things that are eating them.
Yeah.
I think what the problem is you go to the garden centre and it's an easy way out. So you've got something eating your roses, you've got something eating something else, but you can go there and you can find a poison or a spray to kill every living thing in the garden. But an ecosystem works through a food chain. So if you get rid of all the slugs and all the things and the worms that the hedgehogs eat and the toads and the frogs eat, then you won't have hedgehogs, toads and frogs in your garden.
And that really resonates. It's a bit like that story about the pollinators and the bees, and if we damage that end of the food chain, we will starve ultimately.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned in my intro to this video that you're an MBE. Can you tell me why you're an MBE?
Well, it's mainly because I do the animal welfare. I also it was based on a help to the community of nuts for just being here.
All right.
And also for the education I do with children. Through the summer, I have a school party every day, right from probably April right through till the summer holidays, and then a few more in the autumn.
Yeah.
And each school comes, and about 30 to 35 in the class. I take them around the nature reserve, show them all the wonderful things that are happening in there, teach them about all the things in a amusing but very intellectual way.
Yeah.
So they all go home thinking about what we've just done, but we do a bit of play acting as well, but it's all very serious underneath. And then we come back and have a lunch. And then in the afternoon we go pond dipping.
All right.
Take the kids down to the pond and we catch in there. We talk about food chains in the pond and things like that.
I have to say, I think the work you do here is incredible. You can't be doing all this on your own.
No way. I have a brilliant crew of volunteers. When I come back here after a hard day's slog with the children, I come back to my hospital and it's clean and tidy and everybody's happy. It means the world.
Fantastic. I'm presuming you've got a fundraising page somewhere, so what I'll do is I'll put the link to that below this video, and I'll also put it on the end as well, so that if people want to support you, they can get in touch and offer some financial support.
And they become friends on our Lower Mosswood Facebook page as well.
This has been a really exciting and interesting day for me, and I really value the time. Thank you so much for helping me.
Enjoyed it.